communication can be one of the most difficult things in a company, with a customer, with whoever it is. And so if you understand that, oh, this is how I might come across and this is how they want to receive it, and I can temper that just slightly just to make it so that the communication happens, wow, talk about power.
Before we get into this episode, quick word from our sponsors.
Transform your home service business with Chirp, the ultimate automation toolbox. Capture more leads, connect instantly, skyrocket your sales. Look, Chirp integrates seamlessly with platforms like Service Titan and House Call Pro, offering automated texts, emails, and even ringless voicemails. Boost your Google reviews and your customer loyalty with their proven rehash programs. Schedule your demo today and get an exclusive 25% off your first 3 months by using our code chirp.com/HSSR to start boosting your revenue today.
Have you ever thought about outbounding your database to fill your dispatch boards with lucrative service and sales appointments? How about boosting your memberships too? Well, now you can with Elite Call, a US-based call center that does just that. For over 20 years, their dedicated teams don't just make calls, they directly integrate these appointments into your CRM and fill your job boards. Don't let your competition get ahead. Let Elite Call connect with your customers first. Visit elitecall.net to learn more. Enhance your online presence with On Purpose Media, your go-to home service marketing experts for everything web design, SEO, and PPC. Stunning user-friendly websites, check mark. Increased visibility on search engines, also a check mark. Targeted traffic through effective pay-per-click ads, you betcha. So let's go ahead and turn your online presence into a lead-generating powerhouse. Visit onpurposemedia.ca to start your digital transformation and watch your home service company thrive in the digital world.
Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan. Thaddeus, I left him at home because, quite honestly, he's a bother most of the time. He's almost like a brother to me, but we have on a guest that is a brother to someone that we've had on the show numerous times, who is Dustin Van Orman. And we got Kevin Van Orman. He is the president of partner development or business development / regional manager. He helps oversee 5 different locations within the In Hour group, correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. But you started out as a technician, worked your way up into install manager, to now being in the position that you are now, help grow the HVAC division of the company from 5 million to 50 million. So seeing a little bit of growth, a little bit of change, had to redo your processes a couple times, and how you did all that. I guess just to start off your story, your journey into the trades in general, how did you initially get attracted to it? How did you get into it?
You know, it's a funny story. Honestly, if you've heard Dustin's story, it's probably pretty similar. Grew up with a dad that was very, very handy. He had a lot of apartments, and from the age of 6 years old, I remember being there sweeping parking lots, picking up garbage, and that translated into, I remember, was it when the year I turned 19, 2 2-bedroom apartments, my brother and I, Dustin, got them down to studs, redid everything, just us. This was like the test, I think. My dad popped in a couple of times. I remember when we were doing down to linoleum, right?
Yeah.
He came and just to make sure that seams were done the way that they needed to be done. And that was really the start, you know. Getting into heating and air conditioning, I really did that mostly because it was the one thing I didn't know very much about.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I'd already done a lot of plumbing, had done a lot of electrical, and the HVAC side was just something that was kind of an enigma, you know. And when the opportunity came up, that sounds like a good way to go.
So it was the lack of knowledge and understanding that drew you to it, that you're like,
there was something, because I'd done water heaters and all the whatever with plumbing, and done a lot of the electrical and everything else, and there was just a lot of unknown with it.
Right.
And I've always been somebody who likes to learn new things, and to be able to just do for yourself has always attracted me to whatever it is, you know. Along the way, you know, I got into that, and it's since I was 21-ish was when I started doing heating and air conditioning. Since that time, I've done a lot of things, but that's always been my constant. You know what I mean? It's always been in the background, always doing HVAC. But along the way, I built houses for 8 years. And I've been an electrician and a plumber, quote unquote, right? And but it's always been my staple, you know.
Nice. That's cool. How much did the attention to detail that your father pointed out made you make sure that you were doing right, the seams on the linoleum, things like that? How much did that play into how you orchestrated the install team when you started to step into that role?
You know, it's funny you bring up my dad with that. I to this day, when I'm doing different things that my dad taught me, my brain flashes back and says, "Let's see, Dad said to do this," and I'm almost 45 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's still like with whatever it is. So, you know, my dad is a very meticulous, very organized individual, right? He was the guy that you'd be driving and he could tell you within seconds of how long it was going to take us, even if you're walking, right? So, you know, you talk about meticulousness and being organized. I would say that definitely had an effect on me. I myself, I'm not a super organized person, but just the fact that I had that at a young age, I think has really helped me out a ton. You know, talking about our install department, we went from 0 up to, gosh, right now they're pacing to do about 55 million just in installs for this calendar year, right? And it's just been within the last, wasn't a year ago yet that I got taken out of there, you know. So being able to be organized, being able to develop a system, you know what I mean? Because I'll be honest, when they gave me that position over there, it was kind of a, okay, this is what you do. Okay, thanks. And I was like, you want me to do it? No, okay, I'll just figure it out. You know what I mean? And so we just kind of built whatever it was. If I had questions, I could ask, but you know, we just kind of put that together.
Wow. How much did it have to change and shift? Because I know, like, as you grow, as you expand, you understand new ways of doing things, new processes, new procedures. How can we do this faster? How can we be more efficient with it? You know, something that we've talked about internally, at least at a manager level in our company, is, you know, the people who got you to where you're at might not be the people who are going to get you to where you want to go. But something that's always fascinating with me about any hour is how you develop people and grow with them over time. How did you get that buy-in from those people as you started to change the ways that you were doing things in the install department to be more efficient, get product out faster, do a higher level of service, et cetera, with customers, and then still maintain those people and get that buy-in from them?
You know, I like what you talked about, because that is a very common belief, you know, that the people that got us here can't get us to there, you know what I mean?
Right.
And at any hour, we've got a firm belief that why not? Why can't they? You know, the people that you think are going to be the ones that can get you to there, well, they had to be developed somehow, somewhere, right? They had to get their experience somehow, somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. So why can't we do that here? And so that's kind of what we've done, right? And it goes from top to bottom. So everybody at any hour is trained on a weekly basis, from we'll just say the lowest position, which I don't feel like there's anybody that's low, right? But from whoever doing whatever all the way up to management, right? And the thought is that we can take our people and we can develop them into what we need them to be. Right. And I'll be honest, I am proof that works. You know, when I started here, I had been in leadership in other places, right? The company that I came from, I was running most of their in-field type operations. You know, it was a construction/rental type place. It wasn't exactly the same type of stuff. I was their in-house HVAC tech, right? Construction projects, whatever else. But I can tell you 100%, I am not the same manager that I was 20 years ago. And that was at a different company. I'm not the same manager I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same manager I was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. The way I look at things and adapt, which is crucial because just like you say, I mean, what's the size of a decent sized company? 5 million, 10 million, 20 million, right? Well, last year we grew like 15 million, right? We have to be able to take that growth in because we just grew the size of a decent sized company in a year. And we have to be able to now absorb that in. Our managers have to be able to take that and not only take that and handle the extra workload, but it's a constant process of looking for the next level of leadership, those people who are up and coming. And so from the minute they're getting hired to the minute they actually end up in leadership, these people are, one, we're looking for who we think could be potentially those people. And then also we're looking at how we can go about developing them, right? And it's not just a leadership development that happens, it's a people development that happens. Because what I just said about being a manager, I'm not the same husband I was. So I've been married for 23 years. I'm not the same husband I was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 2 years ago, right? I have completely been developed into what I am now. And I'll be honest, I am super grateful that I landed in the company that I'm in, because I can actually look in the mirror and I like who I've been able to become.
Not many people can say that. I wish more people would.
I don't know. I'm not those people.
I feel like with Dustin's computer dinging here, it's like every time you have a good idea. So I think you're doing pretty well.
We can throw a light bulb somewhere too.
Right. One thing you said was that you're constantly looking at, is this person a leader? And then how can we draw that out of them? What sorts of things are you looking for to identify those potential leaders on your team?
You know, it's funny because I'm actually doing a presentation tomorrow on this exact thing. So I've actually been looking at this all day. So John Maxwell, right? He says that leadership is nothing more than influence, right? And so when you're looking, go clear back to the hiring process, right? We have a way more in-depth hiring process than what most companies like us have. Mm-hmm. People, you can expect if you come in an interview, you're going to be here a minimum of 2 hours, if we really like you, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, on an initial interview. And that's because we're looking at these people, we're seeing if they're a cultural fit. And I'll tell you, most people who are here, if you're a cultural fit, there's potential that you could be a leader that's just waiting to be developed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so looking from there, but as you watch somebody develop, as you watch people come in and enter your culture, and you watch people who grow into whatever it is that they're growing into, you can look and you can say, okay, who seems to have influence? Mm-hmm. And what kind of influence are they putting out there? Because, influence, that could be good influence, it could be bad influence, right? Yeah. You could, leaders can go either direction.
Absolutely.
And so that's what we're looking for. We look for people who naturally already have that about them, and if all of the things kind of land in order, those are the people we're going to start along that path, try and help them develop into more and eventually become leadership of some kind, and your leadership, you need those people in the field, right? You need leaders in the field. You need good leaders in the field that don't necessarily have a title. A title doesn't make you a leader, And so I go back to, everybody gets a training, everybody gets development, right? From the top to the bottom.
Right. It's funny, when I first got here, Dustin wasn't at the front door yet when I got in. And is it Michelle? Is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah. She greeted me at the front door. We had a little, small talk. And then she asked if I was here for an interview. And of course, my first thought is podcast interview, because that's what I'm coming for.
So she took you down to recruiting.
She didn't, because I said I was here for Dustin. So she messaged him and said that I was here. But she did say, you know what, you're probably going to do great in your interview, and everything will go great, and you'll probably get the job. And then that's when it triggered that I was like, oh, she meant that kind of an interview. But it's interesting, though, because that giving someone that confidence when they're coming in for an interview from the receptionist, had I been coming here for an actual interview to potentially get a job, that's the kind of thing that's going to make me feel more comfortable. I'm going to now feel more comfortable when I'm sitting down for an interview, regardless of the position. She didn't know what I was here for. Could have been for sales, could have been technician, could have been to be the janitor. That's the kind of thing that's, again, doesn't matter what role you're in, is there training that's provided there for you, right?
Oh, yeah. And Michelle's awesome. She's been here almost as long as I have.
Oh, really?
And right now she's our dispatch manager.
Got it.
And she just, you couldn't ask for a better person, right? I mean, you can think of a whole bunch of other adjectives. She's just a good person, you know, really.
I love it. The face of the franchise when you walk in the door, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to get back into the hiring component and then the training component. Because obviously at the rate that you're growing at 15 million a year in the last year, the rate that you need to be recruiting and hiring and training is exponentially greater than most companies when you say a good sized company is operating at 5 million. What is the focus around hiring? What is the conversation around hiring from that management level all the way down?
So that's an easy one. The main focus, the main conversation isn't hiring, it's retention, right? And retention starts from the day they get hired, from the day they get interviewed, right? We put an overwhelming amount of effort and resources and everything behind having a place, creating an environment where people can come and not just survive, but come and thrive. Again, I go back to our people are trained, our people have resources, our people have benefits, our people have a manager that is trained and knows that that person is the asset, that that person is their customer. I mean, we have our customers, but the manager's customer is their technicians, you know? And are we giving our technicians, are we giving our customers a 5-star experience like our technicians are expected to give to their customers, right? I mean, and so really the answer is retention. Can you imagine having to rehire? I mean, what's the industry standard right now? 60%, 55%? I mean, it's not super great. We float around 80, we've been as high as 90, right? But we're in that, I think right now, 80 to 85% range. And a lot of that is big, I mean, it's intentional. We want people, they know, I mean, we're asking people for commitment, you know? Again, I go back to our hiring process. It's not the just come in, chat for 10 minutes, you certified, okay, let's go, you know. We take the time. We make sure that the people that we are hiring in are people that we feel like we can help build a career and build into and be a part of what our culture is.
How long is the hiring process?
Kind of depending. We've kind of got it honed in really good now. The initial interview is a couple hours, right? They come in, they're going to
one-on-one or in a group?
They're going to come in and take a tour, typically with a group.
Okay.
And then everybody's given a one-on-one interview as well. A lot of times they're then branched out to the manager of the department they're interviewing for. And more often than not, they're coming back for a later interview at a different day. I mean, we like to get spouses involved. There's a lot that we do to be sure that these people are having. We want the interview process to be a 5-star experience. We want, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can't expect to be able to have people come in and give your customers a 5-star experience if they're not feeling like they're getting a 5-star experience. And I'm talking from the day they're hired, the day they're interviewed, day they're hired, and so on and so forth, clear through their career. We want people to have a 5-star career. That's the best way to say it.
I love it. Well, and you take great care of your people. I've seen it as we've walked around and toured the office and everything. And
you know what? I've heard Dustin say it to people back when he was doing a lot more of the recruiting. Talk to our people when you're here.
Right.
Go find somebody who's ornery. You'll have a hard time. They're here, right? You're not going to be able to keep everybody happy all the time.
Yep.
But the majority of the people we have, they're upbeat, they're positive, they're happy to be here. Right. And there's a reason, you know. You don't have that happen just by accident. Right. It takes a lot of effort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not easy work to crawl up in an attic when it's 90 degrees outside. It's 110, 120, 130 in the attic, right? So it's definitely not easy work at any stretch, and no one's excited about doing that. So how can we do the best that we can to put them in the right state of mind, right? I always, at a company that I used to work for, one of the things that they talked about was you got to do 3 things every day. One of them was get your head right. No matter what you got to do, just make sure that your head's in the right space and the right frame of mind to be able to serve and go out and do your job today. Yeah. When we look at what Any Hour is today, because there's Any Hour and then there's the Any Hour group, $100 million company, being able to compress decades into days when it comes to knowledge? You've been here for 13 years. Obviously, there's a lot of things that are done differently now than were done initially.
Yes.
How much in the groups that the offices that you're managing and overseeing now, those 5 different companies, how much have you seen in them mistakes that you had made early on or you had seen been made at the company and now you try to lead them down a different path?
Every time I go out. And I'll be honest, all of the companies I work with, and you could talk group wide, right? Every company's at a different level. Some of them are still tiny in that $5 million realm all the way up to pretty dang big, 45, 50 million. And so they're all the different levels. You can go into any single one of those and you can see things that we experienced, we went through. And that's one of the cool things about it. I can go into these companies and I'll go, and sometimes it's within the first 10 minutes I'm there, I'm like, wait, we're doing what? Okay, well, let's have a conversation about that. And it's awesome because they know and have seen what we've done. And most of the companies that I'm working with, especially, they've been with us for, enough time to know that they need to they need to pay attention to what it is that we have to offer, right? And honestly, it's been a really fun experience. It's hard because change is not easy. No. At any level. It's not easy. And so, and the types of changes that I may go in and see that might need to happen, they vary on severity, that's the wrong word. They vary on how drastic they are, right? And so some of them are just a little tweak here and there, and some of them are, hey, we really need to about face. And but to see something happen and then within a couple weeks, a couple months, 6 months, to see the changes that can happen, right? It's really fun to see. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not easy when you're going through it, because people will overestimate what they can do in a year. They'll underestimate what they can do in a decade. And I'm sure having to reframe that for people constantly is difficult and challenging. I did ask you before the show what was one of your superpowers, and you said being able to have tactful conversations and to tell people what they need to hear when they need to hear it, and knowing when to shut your mouth and allow them to have their own thoughts expressed as well. How can someone improve on that? Is that even a skill that's something someone can build?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, and this is one of the cool things, everybody's going to have your natural things that they're yours. You know what I mean? You can develop them and tweak them, but that's one of the neat things about leadership is it is a practicable thing. You know what I mean? You can take it and you can develop it and you can get better. Maybe some people are going to get way better, but you can get better, right? And so if you have somebody who's leadership and they struggle with having a crucial conversation with people because they don't know how to say it, right? Years have gone by and I have had the conversation many times where someone comes in and says, oh, I don't know how to say this. And I've told them point blank, say it as plainly and bluntly as you can, because that's what you're going to get back. Right. But they know that I'm coming from a place of love, right? That I actually care about what it is they have to say. And so I'm not going to waste their time with a whole bunch of sugary whatever else, right? And we're going to get whatever we need to out, and then we're going to work through it, right. But what favors are you doing for people by not helping them know and understand what is what? And like I say, it took me a little bit of time to develop the know when to hold back part of that, right? But I have been able to develop it. So right. I think maybe someone else will tell you different, right?
How much of because I know you guys work off the color system, but whether it's the color system or the Myers-Briggs or disc profile, how much of that plays into how it is that you respond to someone?
At the beginning, and when I say the beginning, when I first got put into management, it was very little. I just kind of was flying off the cuff. Right. I have found that there is a lot of truth to those systems, right? I'm the most familiar with color code. I would say second on disc, right? Color code's core motivation. Disc is more how we show up in like a work environment, right? I tell you, the color code has been fantastic because it really, if it's utilized right, I've seen some people who use it as we'll call them color code racists, right? For lack of a better way to describe it. Yeah. Oh, so-and-so's a this or so-and-so's a that, and they don't like this and that. You cannot take it and put people into a box. And one of the things I think that was a little bit difficult for me to wrap my brain around, and I would say this really became apparent. I was at a training. This had to be 10 years ago, right? And I was struggling with one of my newer guys that I had. He was not what I thought he was going to be as far as production. Mm-hmm. And I just needed a little bit more. And we were quite a bit smaller. It affected things a lot more. And I was at this training. And at that point, we were actually talking about disc profile. Right. And so going through that, we did an exercise. And I tell you, one of the trainers came in, and I actually raised my hand, and I said, hey, how do I fix somebody who's this? And their response was, well, they're not broken, so stop trying to fix them. And I was like, at first I was a little defeated, like,
right.
Oh.
Not the answer I was looking for.
It wasn't, but I'm a DI on the disc, right?
Okay, yep.
I've always been, let's jump in, let's get this done, this, whatever else, And so I kind of felt like there should have been a way to fix whatever else. But that really spoke true. It's not broken, so quit trying to fix it. Right. And so I've kind of taken that stance with every, whatever the color or whatever the personality metric you're looking at, right? Color code or whatever else, that's the one we use. It has become an amazing tool, right? I've been able to help other managers in their dealings with other managers. And just pull it up. Hey, let's look at your color code. How are you presenting this, right? And it's just being able, because it's all about communication. That's what we're taking from the color code. How do we communicate to other personality types, right? And communication can be one of the most difficult things in a company, with a customer, with whoever it is. And so if you understand that, oh, this is how I might come across and this is how they want to receive it, and I can temper that just slightly just to make it so that the communication happens, wow, talk about power. Right. And that's what I've been able to see with it. Anybody who comes into any hour takes the color code, because it's how can you help yourself with that along that process if you don't know yourself.
Correct.
And that's really what it boils down to.
Correct. Well, and what's interesting with all of them, and you say, well, just because you're high in this, and it's how does it work together, right? And that's the part. And I know we took an intermetrics report. That was one that we did. And then also the Gallup Clifton Strengths. Mm-hmm. And that was the one that was the most fascinating, because when you get that full picture of your 36 strengths, I think it is, or 32, how do they relate with one another? How does it all work together and the pieces fit together? And I know a buddy of mine, he was diving in deep with it. And the odds of someone else on the planet having the same 1 in 32 in the exact same order was 1 in 7 billion. So you want to talk about uniqueness of an individual, there it is, and just playing out with a strength finder test. So yeah, it was pretty remarkable when looking at stuff like that. But how people relate, how people think, how they work through problems, how they show up in environments and stressful situations, problem solving, etc. It's all important to understand how people work so that you can communicate to them effectively and tactfully.
Well, and here's the thing: to what end? Right? To what end? It's goes back to creating a 5-star experience. Right. Life doesn't have to be something I've told my guys. I used to tell them all the time. Right? Life's hard. Mm-hmm. Why can't we go through it and do this together? If we all do it together, then it doesn't have to be so hard. Right. And that's what the color code helps us do. That's what understanding all this stuff and the communication just makes it so we can go through it together. Customer has a problem. Life's hard. Well, you know what? They call somebody up to try and make it less hard. And so if we can make that process and that everything else be that 5-star, that I think is what defines what we've been able to do here in any hour compared to, anywhere else. You know what I mean? Putting that into what we're doing, the motivation behind it.
I love it. Well, and that's something that we've talked about numerous times on the show, is the best thing that you can do for a customer is to treat your employees well. Because if you treat them well, they'll treat them well. And it's that trickle down with it. If you were to distill down one principle around recruiting and team building that would make the biggest difference for someone who's at that $1 to $5 million level, what would be that principle that you would give to them?
That is a good question. The one, because it's honestly, I don't know if I would say it's a principle. I think it's more of a don't give up, right? Especially at that size. This is the thing. People go in, they're looking for a job, they're looking to be hired, they're looking for whatever else. They don't know what to expect, right? So if you can provide people at a smaller level, right? We do a big tour. We have a big facility. A lot of people come in and they're kind of like, holy cow, whatever else. But we're trying to give those people that experience, right? When someone's coming to you or whatever it is and you're trying to figure all that out, I think it's don't be afraid to be vulnerable with those people. Don't be afraid to try and give them that experience. Don't be afraid to open yourself up, open your company up, right? As people are coming in, because that's what people are going to see. I think the biggest thing that I've found in recruiting and everything else is people can see through the BS, right? People can tell if you're being fake. A lot of people. But so don't be, be real with people. That's probably the biggest thing.
I love it. Well, as we wrap up, I got one final question here for you. What's one question that you wished people would ask you more, but they don't?
That's another good question. Jeez, usually I'm the guy that's like, hey, don't ask me, ask them. And it would really depend on which part of the business, because it's going to be different from when
it could be business, it could be personal.
Yeah? Huh. I don't know. That'd be a good one to have to mull over for a little while. Question that I wish people would ask me. Wish my kids would ask me for permission before they went off and did stuff. That's one for sure.
That'd be a nice one, yeah.
You know what? That kind of translates over into some of the guys that have worked for me. Wish they would have asked for at least an opinion on some stuff, how to do the whatever else. So, yeah.
There's something we can explore. How do you know when to leap and to go after something and try and because the speed at which of making that decision is important versus when do I need to pause, reflect, think through, seek out guidance, advice, feedback before making a decision? How do you distill between those two things?
It depends on what it is that what it is you're doing. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be different. You got a new guy that's in the field. Mm-hmm. It's going to vary on their experience level. You know what I mean? You hope a guy is going to take a chance and try and figure something out for themselves before they're calling you all the time, right? There's a balance. With guys, you have a new manager who's dealing with other people. You would hope that they would know this is a serious issue, or this is a serious question, or and come and get some counsel before they go off and just make decisions or whatever else. Right. That being said, you want your people to be empowered. You want them to be able to make decisions and feel like you've got their back. And so I think you have to be able to have people's back even when that are working for you, because let's be honest, you're gonna have to own whatever it is regardless, right? Because ultimately the buck stops with whoever's in charge. Mm-hmm. And so it really varies. It really varies experience level and just where guys are at in their career and their decision-making ability.
Got it. And so if someone were, like, let's say one of the owners, the managers that are at the location that you're overseeing, they make a decision that they felt was right. It ended up being the wrong decision. How do you have that conversation with them to go back and reflect on it and say, well, maybe we should have thought about this a little bit more? Or...
the conversations, they're going to be the conversation. I think the biggest thing is making sure that people have an expectation set before you ever get to that level. And that's how you can avoid major heartache, major trauma, major whatever in the business at whoever's house. I think that's one thing that I've found most places, and I can say this because it's been the case with me other places I've been, and that is that expectation wasn't set or wasn't given clearly enough, and so you're just kind of left to try and figure things out on your own,
Right.
you know? And I mean, you're asking for disaster. All it takes is a little bit of, and it goes back to communication, a little bit of preemptive communication. And if people want to do a good job, and how can they do that good job if they don't know exactly what the expectation is?
Love it. Well, I appreciate it, Kevin. If someone did want to reach out to you, ask some questions about what the group entails, what being involved with the group would be, or even just how to run a better install department.
Sure.
What's the best way to reach you?
Honestly, email kevin@anyhour.com.
Love it.
Super easy one.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to join us today.
For sure.
And yeah, until next time, cheers, everyone.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, two quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.